and also week ahead report, and it's currently Saturday, December the 3rd. Good night last night in the US. Relatively respectable close there. But we did have some good unemployment data, and I think the fact that the market basically managed to hold on to its gains over the last week suggests that there's a little bit more confidence coming back to the market. Good to see that unemployment data actually came down 8.6, and non-farm payrolls up about 130,000, and a revision for the last month, which is up another 100,000. So that in itself, I think, probably suggests that that the economy is starting to look just a little bit better. Let's just get that. The economy is just starting to look a little bit better. And which is a good thing, because we're also seeing signs in Europe that they're getting a handle on the debt issue. So it looks like we might get into a Christmas rally in equities, but obviously a little bit too early to tell. But certainly going out this week, I think the market went out on a pretty positive note. Particularly the local market, local SPY came out, local market came out on a very good note. And in fact, that was a weekly high for it. And we haven't seen that for some time. So let's see if we get that, I think that week, that Christmas rally in the Australian market. So I think it actually does look quite good. Just a quick note, remember the PEs in some of those stocks in the States are very, very well priced. So if anything, the market, I think, could be represent a buy and relatively cheap. Also, with that Aussie up around these levels, it could be a good trade. Okay, let's just run through it. The Dow, as we said, was down a fraction. The S&P was down also, and the Nasdaq, not a lot of movement there. Stocks at least a little bit. Payrolls maybe shortening. There we go. Good numbers there. We can actually a little bit down here. We can see a little bit more on that news there. Economy payrolls gain up, which was good, and as I said, that rate came in at 8.6%, down from that troubled 9%. So quite good there. Energy, crude rises continue amid concerns in Iran. I think the market is relatively cheap still concerning that because there's still some big issues there to be dealt with. France, as we know, also decided to increase its sanctions against Iran, so a few issues there to be dealt with. Okay, let's have a quick look at some of the other markets, world indices, and you can start to get a bit of a clue there of what's happening there in Europe as well. Good strong night in the top 50 there. It was up 28. FTSE was up 62. The CAC was up 35. And the DAX was up 44. So relatively strong there. Local markets, local futures markets on SICOM. That market managed to trade okay too. Only down 3 at 4,295. But at least it's staying above that 4,000 level. And I've got to be quite happy with that. Okay, having a look at commodities. And as you can see here, a little bit of moving and shaking that oil price, but it doesn't seem to be doing a lot with what's happening there in Iran, which I think is quite interesting because I would have actually thought oil would be a lot higher. But anyway, let's see what happens there. Maybe we're seeing a little bit more damning news, and she will start to trade higher. A bit of a concern there. Keep an eye on 102.50 to 103. A breakthrough of that area sets it into a new and higher range. Have a look at some of the other softs. Good to see wheat up a little bit, which was good. Corn a little bit disappointing. Soybeans, as we know, we are long, up just under 0.7% at 11.35. Like the look of soybeans too, and probably expect it to continue to track higher. Copper held onto those gains, 358, which is quite good, and that was up 1.43%. In gold, gold at up $11, 17.51. I actually would have liked to have seen gold hold on to some of these higher gains. So that to me is just a little bit of an issue. We are long, but I think we might move up our stop losses just in case. But let's see how Monday and Tuesday trade. But you can see on this chart here that we had that spike up to around that 17.58, but she came back to trade around that 17.50. Having a look at the daily chart for gold, I think is quite interesting. And you can see that it has had quite a good rally there. Maybe it does consolidate a little bit, but I think if we follow some of those trend lines there, still looks okay. Momentum indicators still support it trading higher, so just be careful. Maybe just move the stops up. Okay, let's have a look at copper. We're long copper as well, as everyone knows, 358.5 there, and I think whilst we get, I think, good news in the economies, it's got to be seen as a positive thing across the board. It's broken through this consolidation pattern we looked at before, and does look set for test a little bit higher. 360 was the initial target reached, and now I think that the next target is this little high here. So if it can trade back through this high here, there, which is, there we go, up around that 375, then you can have a good run to the top side. I'm expecting a little bit of shortage in the metal quarter one, quarter two. That should support prices as well. Like copper, still like copper. Okay, let's have a look at the dollar index because that's going to be, I think, a big key. It hit the 80 area and came back quite dramatically. That was an area we looked at. More consolidation. I actually think that does come up a little bit more consolidation, but it still remains relatively in a very good bull market. In the bulletin, we just did suggest to move stops and take some profit. That was done at good levels. Okay, so that's pretty much some of the main things. We'll just have a quick look at that Aussie as well. And when looking at that Aussie, had a very good run there. I do expect it dips to be supported there. Back to 101, 101.50, have a look at it. And naturally, if this area goes down here, 97, we're wrong. It's in the big range, but I think dips can be looked at on that. Okay, as it is for the War Ahead report, we see what's coming out. Just a quick snapshot, not a lot of data coming out of the States this week. In fact, we've got more positive data or more data coming out of Australia. We've got, I guess, RBA. We'll talk a little bit about interest rates later, but RBA comes out on Tuesday, and we are expecting to see a quarter of a rate cut there, back to 4.5, 4.25. But anyway, on Monday we've got inventories in Australia, ANZ job advertisements, bit of PMI data, ISM non-manufacturing orders in the States. That's probably pretty much the pick of it, I think, this week for the States. Let's run through it. Tuesday, RBA, cash target 4.25. Prior was 4.5, so one movement notch down. Would they do it? I don't know. I'm more inclined that they wouldn't, but the general consensus is there. Let's see what happens there. Anyway, let's see. Moving on to Wednesday, GDP in Australia still meant to be relatively positive, which is not too bad. IP in the UK, which I think will be widely watched. Quite a bit of data out of Japan to make sure they're starting to move on as well. Thursday, in Australia, we've got unemployment. That's expected to be a pretty good number, and that rate meant to be steady at 5.2%. Initial jobless claims in the States, wholesale inventories as well, and a lot more data in Japan. Moving on to Friday, a lot of start out of Germany, and obviously in Europe. A lot of data, industrial production. That'll give us an overview as to what's happening there. Those numbers are not tipped to be pretty good. In fact, they're actually meant to be on the poor side. Let's see. Trade balance in the States and the University of Michigan confidence number, which is meant to be relatively robust. Okay, that's pretty much about it from me. Hope everyone has a good week. I also hope everyone has a good weekend. Certainly as we head into Christmas, there's obviously a lot on, so be safe out there. Happy trading. We'll talk to you later, and bye for now.